Great. Tyler Moebius, CEO, Smart Media Technologies, leader in Web3 fan engagement and loyalty. And today I'm joined with the CMO of Rocket Mortgage, Casey.
Hey, good morning, Tyler. Casey Hurbis, Chief Marketing Officer with Rocket Mortgage in the great city of Detroit, Michigan.
All right, fantastic. Well, you're no stranger to the Super Bowl. And in fact, I think last year you even had the winning pick. So let's start off. Who's your prediction for this year?
Can I play it really safe and say I don't have one yet? But
yeah.
It's funny when you're an advertiser and you're not in the Super Bowl. I almost have a different mindset of which I'm not super engaged on what's in the game. When you're in the game, I'm obsessed with it, right? Because you're stacking up the competition, and if you will, and you hope somebody doesn't have an idea or a part of a stunt or a concept that maybe nears what you've been working towards. So today actually is the day where I'm going to be sitting down. I'm going to get on Ad Age, Ad Week, YouTube, whatever it might be, and start ranking up. You start to see stuff in your feed, but it looks like Super Bowl every single year, big stage. It's celebrities, culture, influencers. It's really interesting starting to see some of the brands, how they're taking that second, third, fourth screen and, looking to dominate there as well.
Yeah. And I know you're a big fan of Detroit.
Yes.
So sorry you were so close this year to getting there.
It could have been 52 years of between being a Detroit Lions fan.
Yeah.
It could have all culminated here today, but maybe next year. Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. And all right, Taylor Swift. So from your perspective, what could the NFL or teams learn from fan engagement and sort of the Taylor Swift effect?
Great question. This actually was really interesting as I think about my kids. I have teenage kids. And listen, they were going with dad to a game. They weren't like me growing up where, I was sitting with my dad, watching the Lions on a Sunday afternoon, very casual. But this year, like a lot of Americans, maybe also in the younger generation, all of a sudden they are super interested in everything NFL. At the end of the day, Taylor Swift is an economic model all by herself, right? We've seen all the, what has it done to jersey sales and, Travis and Jason's podcasts. It's an economy in itself, and it's great. As we all know, the NFL has the highest level of fandom, if you will, across all major sports, and this just yet raises it to another level. I think I was reading that they're tracking her like Santa Claus.
Right.
I think coming to the game, right?
Right.
NORAD's, don't worry about Santa. We got to make sure Taylor gets here from Japan in time for kickoff.
Yes, and sounds like there's a bit of a traffic jam at the airport right now.
There's a lot, as we can tell. There's a lot of jets coming in.
Yeah, so Taylor obviously does not have a loyalty problem. Oftentimes the teams, they don't have a loyalty problem. But what we kind of have been hearing around this week in Vegas from a lot of the teams and the leagues and even sponsors is really how can sponsors and the teams engage in a deeper, more meaningful way with fans, particularly in this digital realm where it's hard and really expensive to be a fan. I need 8 subscriptions to be able to watch my favorite teams, and even the sponsors. It's becoming more and more expensive.
Sure.
What are some of the tactics that you guys are deploying at Rocket Mortgage to be able to engage in a more meaningful way with fans?
That's a great question, Tyler. Make no mistake, sports for Rocket has and continues to be a large part of our investments. NFL, PGA Tour. We've been in esports, college football, basketball, the list goes on and on, right? And we'll continue to look to expand that. Sports in a way, and you're exactly right. The cost of entry, the cost of entry as a fan, the cost of an entry as a brand, the cost of entry as a consumer, those continue to go. But also along the way, I just think about the level of access that, whether it's free or subscription-based, the amount of access that people now have to their, loyal, whatever it might be, a team, an athlete, whatever it might be. It is just growing so fast. So as a brand, how we start to think about it is, yes, in the stadium, there's a brand presence, your shared equity with one another. Outside of the stadium, how do you as a brand, working with a partner, whether it's a team, an athlete, whatever it might be, how can you bring value to a consumer they otherwise, he, she, or they may not have been able to have a chance to have? I mean, that's through storytelling, through contests, through experiences, in which, how do you work with your partners? It could be a media partner, a team, an athlete, again, and how can you bring a unique value proposition to that fan that provides value to them? I mean, that's the things that starts to break through clutter, but it also helps drive engagement and loyalty for your brand, but also your partner.
Yeah. And then how does that sort of dovetail into community building? I know that that's important to you. You've talked about that in the past.
Yeah, great. Another great question, Tyler. So, as we look at brand partnerships, and listen, I'm sure a lot of marketers will get on and they'll say, hey, we don't, it's not a logo slap. I mean, our process, our mental process, and as we look at partnerships, is we have a first, best, only mindset. What can we be doing with a partner that hasn't been done before, is a benchmark? And I always like to try and come up with ideas, programs, whatever it might be, where someone else walks in the room and go, why didn't we try that? That happens every Monday morning after the Super Bowl. So as we form partnerships, we think about the brand. Obviously, there's a transactional exchange of which we are exchanging value. If we work with the PGA Tour, the NFL, Detroit Lions, there is value that we're receiving based on that brand. We are obviously providing value from a transaction standpoint or whatever it might be. And then, there's a check on the brand. And then we start to think about experiences for our team members, Rocket Mortgage team members, experiences for clients or business partners in the B2B space. And then, so there's a second leg of that stool. And then third is community, in which, yes, we do a lot in the city of Detroit. We do a lot in the city of Cleveland, where we have a large office presence. But we have a more than profit philosophy at Rocket Mortgage. And we have really key centered things that we focus on at Rocket. A couple examples being homelessness. We started with veteran homelessness, and now we've broadened it in partnerships with Community Solutions and Built for Zero. I don't care what race, color, creed, sexual orientation you may be. I don't know anyone in America that believes that a human that comes and kisses the ground after they serve should be forced to sleep on it. So we are obsessed with how can we help eradicate not only veteran homelessness, but homelessness across this country. Digital inclusivity. The city of Detroit, during the pandemic, it shined the unfortunate spotlight that over 60% of Detroit residents, when the pandemic hit, did not have access to the internet. You think about that, is unfathomable in today's day and age. But that spotlight got shown because of school kids that all of a sudden didn't have technology or even access to the internet. The reason I bring that up to you is as we form a partnership, again, a team, an athlete, a media company, we have the mindset of, yes, there will be an exchange of services, but how can we work with a league, a team, an athlete, or a media company to help also address and bolster and support the work we are doing in our communities?
Yeah.
And so it's, that's a big part of it as well. And that's quite honestly for me, people ask there's always a fun, amazing experiences, but the work that we do with partners to help address our community focus are things that bring me the most happiness.
No, I love that. That's really taking in consideration all of the stakeholders, right? Not just the obvious ones between the sponsor, the teams, the players, but pulling into the community at the same time. So love that. I think this year you guys are running a pretty big sweepstakes. So the giveaway.
Yeah, we've done a number of sweepstakes over the years. Back in 2016, get this. I don't know if you remember this. It was before I joined. We did the $1 billion bracket with Warren Buffett, where NCAA basketball pick all the and you win $1 billion. I mean, it was. Now, granted, that year it was like we had a bunch of 15-2 upsets. Yeah. So I think most of America was out after the opening weekend. That was the first, best, and only. We've done work with the Kentucky Derby. 6, 8, 10 horses running on a final race. We have award winners on top of the midfield, and if their horse won, they won a home. We've done 3 years of the Rocket Mortgage Super Bowl Squares. We're not doing it this year. We'll be back. And that's a chance where, I mean, the game that we've all grown up with, even in the world of, online gambling, Squares is something that, from 5 to 85 people do. We were the first one to bring, first pass only, to bring the Rocket Mortgage Squares to life in partnership with the NFL. And that drove so much engagement and, in value to consumers because it was a chance, kind of like Taylor Swift. All of a sudden, man, I got a chance. And it wasn't, when we do the Rocket Mortgage Super Bowl Squares, it wasn't like, hey, it was a score at the quarter, the half, at the end of the game. It was every time there was a score, touchdown, field goal, safety, extra point, somebody in that box was winning $50,000, $500,000 at, half at the end of the game. And it was like, think about that engagement, of which now people are like, hey, I may be more of a casual viewer. And so that's something that's super exciting. We're excited to do more of those things. And that kind of does a lot of, again, community engagement as well.
Fantastic, yeah. At Smart Media, we provide a gamified giveaway solution that's focused exactly just on that, moving beyond just the email capture and that 2.5 seconds of dwell time.
Exactly right.
So like ultimately, how do you provide a real value exchange back to the fans and drive that deeper engagement? So I love that. Well, I guess lastly, you are you're no stranger to Super Bowl ads.
Yeah.
For the up and coming aspiring CMO who gets a chance to do a Super Bowl ad one day, what would be your advice for them?
I get asked that a lot, and I've been fortunate, Tyler, to be part of 7 Super Bowl campaigns. I did 3 of them on the automotive side. I worked at Fiat and Alfa Romeo as part of Stellantis now, and I've been blessed to do 4 Super Bowl campaigns at Rocket Mortgage. Our first year with Keegan-Michael Key. Our second year with Jason Momoa, ripping off his shirt, into America, which was like insane. During the pandemic, pulled off a miracle and did 2 spots with Tracy Morgan that went number 1, number 2 on USA Today Ad Meter. First brand to do that since, if I remember correctly, Bud Light. And then the following year in 2022, we were in the Super Bowl with Anna Kendrick and Barbie, with Rocket Mortgage and Rocket Homes. Again, number 1 on USA Today Ad Meter. We were the only brands since 1989 to have number 1 USA Today Ad Meter outside of Pepsi and Doritos. And so what I tell people is Super Bowl is the most painful 30 or 60 seconds of your year. And that if done right, and some do it in a week, and I've done it in a week before, but generally it's 6, 7, 8 months. You start with 150 ideas, work it, and you start thinking about talent and music and all the second, third, fourth screens and the teasers, the whole package. And then you get ready for the game. And when I go to the office, because I don't go to the game if we're in the game, I go to the office, I run a war room. 50 people, 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. And I kiss my wife and kids goodbye, and I tell them, Daddy's got about a 50-50 shot. Because Monday morning, if things don't go well, CMOs lose their jobs on Monday after the Super Bowl. Kind of like coaches lose their job the day after the Super Bowl, or the day after the season ends. And it's not for the faint of heart. There's many times during the process where I ask myself why. But what I come back to is there are only 60 some odd brands that step into the Super Bowl every single year. Some of them play it safe. Some of them go crazy wild. And I like to play towards the take big risks. If you're going to step on the world's biggest stage, you're spending $20 million in 60 seconds. When it's all said and done, why not stand for something? Now, with that being said, what I tell myself when I'm at like a fit of frustration and angst and, is if this was easy, everybody would do it. And that's what keeps me going. And nothing makes me more proud than, when that anticipation, you know where your spot's running, and you think it's that break, you're checking it, and then all of a sudden that spot hits, and I literally black out. Like, I don't remember that moment, but as soon as it moves on to the next spot or goes back to the game, then it's chaos, right? Site, social. Is the CEO calling? Right. Generally, the CEO is not calling to tell you, great job. I was like stare at my phone for about 5-10 minutes going, please don't call me. And then you let America. At the end of the day, it's the world's biggest water cooler moment. Year in and year out. And you go to bed and you really don't have a great idea. Like really, you kind of have a feel for how it performed, whatever your KPI metrics are. You kind of have it, right? And the pundits start hitting it, and people start giving their rankings, whatever it might be. But it's really when you wake up that next day, and it's the water cooler talk, right? And then all right, what's happening, from an e-com standpoint? What's happening in the press? What's happening, in social and what have you? And that's where it's almost like another Super Bowl day, because some things can go great.
Yeah.
Some things can go horribly bad. I gotta be honest with you, I think the worst thing that can be is if nothing happens. If nothing happens, then it's so help me understand why we did this. No one's talking, it's like the old Hollywood adage. Yeah. We did a couple spots with Charlie Sheen back in the day, and I'll never forget, he pulled me aside one day, he goes, I'm gonna tell you something. When they stop talking about you in this town, you're done. Sometimes negative chatter can be okay, and hopefully it's not too negative. But I always think the Monday, the day, or the week, the time right after the Super Bowl, if no one's talking about you, it's almost worse. Then people really start asking the tough questions.
Yeah. Makes sense. Well, Casey, I really appreciate the time.
Thanks for having me.
And looks like
not a bad place to be hanging here.
Not at all. It's a gorgeous day.
It's a beautiful 45 degrees here in Las Vegas.
Right.
And we're in Detroit today.
Yeah, and I guess you're hosting Brand Innovators out in Detroit.
We're going to have Brand Innovators in Detroit. We're going to have the NFL Draft in Detroit, April 25th to the 27th, the day before. So I'll call it the 24th, if I remember correctly. I'm a proud member of Brand Innovators on their advisory council, and we're going to have Brand Innovators in Detroit with a bunch of great brands, and the draft is right in the heart of downtown Detroit. Brand Innovators is going to be right next to it. So hopefully, partners will come and not only have a great Brand Innovators event, but they can spill right outside and see everything that the great city of Detroit has to offer in April.
Well, thanks for all that, for the work and the community, and I look forward to seeing you.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, Casey.
Yeah.